I have already written the code for Snowflake. We'll go through the Snowflake code one by one. For this project, let's create a database named DE project. Let's make use of the database. Now, we can see the schema of our database, that is city, time, humidity, pressure, and all. Right? If you go, the city is string, time is string, humidity, pressure, temperature, and wind speed is number, and wind direction is again string. So we have created a table same way. We have created a table named weather data, wherein we have a columns named city, time, humidity, pressure MB, temperature, wind direction, and wind speed. Let's go ahead and create a table. Now our table is successfully created. Now we need to create an integration object. So integration object is used to connect your S3 with a Snowflake. So we need to create a IAM role that help us to connect our AWS account to Snowflake. Let's go to AWS. Let's go to IAM. Let's go to roles. Let's go ahead and create a role. Now we are creating a role for this AWS account. We can go to next. So we need to provide a S3. Let's go ahead and create a S3 full access. Now let's provide a name for the role, that is AWS to Snowflake. Now our role is successfully created. Now I can go inside this role. Now I can copy this ARN and paste it into this. Now I need to also provide our S3 location. So let's go to our S3 bucket and let's copy this S3 URI and paste it here. So now what this basically does is it will create an integration object and it will be an external stage. It will say the storage location is S3. So it is basically used to connect your Snowflake to our S3. Now let's go ahead and create our integration object is successfully created. Now we can describe this integration object. So now we have two very important things, that is our external ID and storage AWS location. Now since I have already done it from Snowflake side, now we need to tell AWS that this Snowflake account will request access, and whenever it requests access, you must grant the access. So let's copy this role ARN. Let's go here. Let's go to trust relationship. Let's go to edit trust relationship. Right now, instead of this, let's paste the ARN that we have copied, and in the condition, let's go ahead and click on add condition. Let's select external ID since our Snowflake is external. So let's copy this external ID and it can be default. Operator can be string equals, paste the value here. Now this will help our AWS to authenticate the Snowflake. Now our integration object is well set up. Now we are having a data in a CSV format. So let's create a file format named CSV format. Let's run it. Now our file format is successfully created. Our header is, we are skipping the header. Now we have to tell the stage, like we need to define a stage. So to do that, let's copy our S3 location, that is a location of our external stage. Let's paste it in the, now, when we have defined a stage, we are giving a link to our integration object and our file format. Now this way our stage is successfully created. Now we are creating a Snowpipe. What Snowpipe basically does is, like, our data will be coming from DynamoDB to S3 in a regular basis. So whenever new data comes into S3, it will tell Snowflake कि new data have arrived and you need to refetch it or ingest it again. So for that we are creating a Snowpipe. So it will have something called auto ingest feature. So it will automatically ingest the data. So it is giving an error saying, assuming AWS role, please verify external ID are configured correctly in AWS policy. Setup, we have got that error because of this reason. When you go to describe integration object, so we have made use of this sixth one, we must use a fifth one, that is storage AWS IAM user ARN. We have to copy that, paste it in principal tag instead of the sixth one. So here, instead of the old that we have pasted, we have to paste the storage AWS IAM user ARN. So once that is done, we'll be successfully able to run this and our pipe will be ready. Now if I do select star from weather data, our data is not coming. So what we need to do is, we need to show pipes. Now what this basically do? Now we have something called notification channel. So we can see that there is something called SQS. Now what it basically does, whenever new data land into our AWS S3, it will basically trigger a notification to Snowflake that new data have arrived. Run the pipe object, that is run your ingest function and get the data from S3 to Snowflake. So we can copy this, we can go to our S3, we can go to our properties, let's go down. Now we have to create an event notification. Let's give it some name. Let's create for any object, that is any object that enters into S3 will trigger this notification to our Snowflake. Now let's provide Lambda function ARN. SNS topic, and let's provide the ARN for this. That is SNS only, right? Or it is SQS. So let's choose SQSQ and let's provide the ARN for the SQS. Now click on save changes. So now let's go ahead and trigger our DynamoDB once again. So what that way, let's trigger our Lambda function once again. So what that basically does is, it will add a new data into our DynamoDB that will in turn run our DDB to Snowflake, DDB to S3 Lambda function, and that will call our Snowflake auto ingest, and that will take a data from S3 to our Snowflake. So now let's go to our Lambda function, let's click on test, let's invoke. Now this have successfully invoked. Now we can see that new records has been entered into our weather table. New records has been entered into our weather table. Now this will call our DDB to Snowflake function that will process the data and put it in S3. Then that will in turn call our Snowflake object. Now let's wait for some time for this process to get over. Now we can see that our data is successfully loaded to our Snowflake. Now whenever we insert any data into our DynamoDB, our data will be passed to Snowflake automatically. So we have created a whole part, that is, we have created a Lambda function that will trigger a weather API and put a data inside a DynamoDB. Then we have set up a DynamoDB stream and a Lambda function that will process that stream and load the data to S3. Then we have created a Snowflake account and loaded the data from Snowflake from S3 to Snowflake using Snowpipe. Now, only thing that is remaining is to schedule our Lambda function every 1 hour. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's go to the function. We need to call this function every 1 hour. To do that, we have a service named EventBridge. Let's click on Add Trigger. Let's make a source as EventBridge. Now we can create a new rule. Let's create a rule named trigger every hour. So we can put our own pattern. We can put a pattern like rate 1 day, or we can add our own cron job. So for our case, we need to trigger in every 1 hour. So let's write rate 1 hour. So it will trigger our cron job every 1 hour. Click on add. So it will trigger the function every 1 hour. So this way we can see that our cron job is enabled. This way we have completed our project. So let's walk through the every points once again. We had created a weather API wherein we have got an API key that helped us to write a Python script that will fetch a data from weather API. Next, we have created an EventBridge schedule that will trigger our Lambda function every 1 hour. Now what this Lambda function will do? This Lambda function will take data from weather API and store it into a DynamoDB table. Once data is inserted into the DynamoDB table, it will automatically generate a DynamoDB stream. Now this stream will be processed using Lambda function and it will be loaded to our AWS S3. Now once data is loaded to AWS S3, we had something called Snowpipe that will send a notification using a SQS queue to our Snowflake. Now once our Snowflake is notified, it will ingest the data from S3 to Snowflake external stage. So we have completed this project. Hope you have enjoyed working on a project with me. For more such project, do like and subscribe. Thank you.